for him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Now, I want to shift my attention to the Southeast Division, all right? We are definitely going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the Miami Heat when we get to that point. But let's start with the Washington Wizards. Let's start, you ever have a meal cooked in front of you and you got the veggies, you got the potatoes, and you got the steak. All right, we're going to start with the veggies, get them out of the way first.
Okay.
The Washington Wizards last year, 15-67, 17th in points per game, dead last in opponent points. They had an offensive rating. They were 25th in the league, and they were 28th in the league in defensive rating. And then when you look at, the shuffling around, they picked up Malcolm Brogdon. They lose Danny Avdija. They lose Tyus Jones. They lose Landry Shamet. They bring in Sadiq Bey, Malcolm Brogdon, Keshawn George they drafted, Alex Sarr, and you bring in Jonas Valanciunas. You're not really doing a good job rebuilding this team. All right, I'm going to say that off the rip, okay? My biggest question about this team is when you look at the roster, can Jordan Poole be the guy or is he just a guy?
I'll answer twice. Okay. I want him to be the guy. But I'm very much afraid of him of just being a guy. And I only say that just from the standpoint. I only say that from the standpoint of in the not only in the media but just based on play. If he's able to take criticism and just really try to figure out how to run a team. I obviously, I spoke so highly on him in terms of whatever was going on with Golden State, and now he's over here. Everybody with a 1 year situation, their first year and stuff like that. Again, I spoke highly of him. Coming in the next year, I'm like, I hope he go crazy. I have a lot of confidence in him and stuff like that.
We talked about
definitely, man, and I could definitely say I was wrong. So
Buddy was getting cooked out of the gate. Problem was he was cooking himself.
Exactly.
He was a danger to himself.
Exactly.
The man was a danger unto himself.
Man,
this is what I think about Jordan Poole. All right,
go ahead.
I'm on point right now with my references. Somebody can let me know in the comments, but right now I'm on point with my references because y'all gonna feel this one too. You watch Star Wars? You ever seen Star Wars?
Oh yeah.
Empire Strikes Back. Luke Skywalker. I liken Jordan Poole to Luke Skywalker in that movie. First part of the movie, we knew he was the chosen one. Then we started to see his maturity. Then we watched him train. And he started getting the knowledge that he needed to take it to the next level, and we started to see his skill more. But the moment came where he left before his training was over, and he was like, hey, it's not going to go how you think it's going to go. It ain't going to end well if you leave before your training is complete.
Right.
Took the chance, left. Obviously, Jordan Poole was traded, but still, the same outcome. Got his arm cut off. Jordan Poole went there. Wasn't finished maturing, wasn't finished with his training, wasn't really ready for that next level. He got put in the spotlight, and it was like, oh, whoa. Let's pump the brakes. Let's move him back to the 6-man role because he ain't that guy. So to answer that question, he's not there yet. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets. 21-61 last year. I don't really have a lot to say about some of these teams that are in this position, but the Charlotte Hornets are an interesting scenario. 21-61 last year. We know the reason why. 28th in the league in points, 22nd in opponent points per game. Offensive rating, they were 28th, 29th in defensive rating. LaMelo Ball wasn't there. Right. Brandon Miller, he had a really good rookie season. I like what I saw from him. Bridges, didn't have him for a good portion of the season. He's back into the fold completely this year. He got a full off season to work out, train, be ready for the season. I like this young big three. The only problem I have is, do you have enough built around this team and are built around these three. Because let me see, they have Mark Williams, like him as a big guy. Pretty sure Nick Richards is another big on that team. I like how you add in Seth Curry, you add in Trey Mann, you have Cody Martin, you got bigs, you got a vet and Taj Gibson coming in. I mean, Josh Green, good young piece for Dallas last year. Played some decent minutes for them in the playoffs. Pesky can get after it. Athlete, hustle guy. He kind of falls in that Josh Hart, Alex Caruso type role. I like him. This is a good fit for this team, but the only problem is, do you think that's enough around Ball, Bridges, and Brandon Miller to get them into that play-in 7, 8, 9, or 10 spot? Do you think they're a good enough team to be in the play-in?
If healthy, I think so. I think they get like kind of edge like the last spot. That in serious like consistency, injury and consistency, man. I think there were times where like, you know, obviously anybody can get hot, anybody can score the ball, anybody can, whatever the case may be. We know what those guys are capable of, especially considering Ball and Bridges been you know, on the same for a little bit. You know, they had situations and things of that nature, injury and stuff like that, that's kept them from playing, but they have a connection. Now they need everybody else to be along with it, and it you know, injuries are part of the game, but that plus consistency, I see them being edging out those last couple spots at least for the play-in, if not, you know, possibly even making the playoffs.
Now, when I look at Charlotte, okay, there's a lot of teams where you say this is just a bad team. Whether this person was there or not, this was going to look like this, all right? I look at Charlotte in the same let me pump the brakes. I almost said in the same way I look at Memphis, but Ja Morant is just built different. So I ain't going to say that. But what I mean is LaMelo Ball is worth the contract that he was given. LaMelo Ball is that type of player where you can trust him to be the head of the snake, leader of the franchise. 20, 10, maybe 5 or 6, triple-double threat every single game. He can shoot the lights out. He's like that. I feel like I heard somebody once say, when discussing the Atlanta Hawks, when discussing Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, somebody once said this team was going to be average. And this team was not going to go very far with that backcourt. And that this team had no idea what they were doing when they traded and got DeJounte Murray, because it was going to be a disaster. One of those players was going to be without the basketball, and both of those players, that happens to be their biggest weakness. It just didn't make sense from day one. They were average the entire time they were together, and then Trae Young goes down, and now you're just below average. 23-24 Atlanta Hawks, 36 and 46, 5th in the league in points, 28th in points, opponent points per game, 12th in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating. And then you look at the offseason. Like I said, they got rid of DeJounte Murray. He goes to New Orleans. They gonna be crazy this year. Man. CJ, DeJounte in the backcourt. I mean, that team is gonna be tough. You lose Sadiq Bey for the Atlanta Hawks. You lose Wesley Matthews, DeJounte Murray. I mean, that's a lot of defense and, you know, some shooting right there. You get, you know, the high-level draft pick. You don't really add anybody to this roster that's worth mentioning. I mean, Larry Nance Jr., he's a good vet, but he ain't going to be like a needle mover or nothing like that. You still got Bogdanovich, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Trae Young, Matthew. I mean, you still got basically the same exact team just without DeJounte Murray. Now, when I'm looking at the Atlanta Hawks, I'm thinking, all right, based on how things went with the trade, what they lost, what the roster looks like, is it time to move Trae Young at the deadline or even before that?
It might be, man. It might be, honestly. I think it all depends on what. I don't think they're gonna go too farther than the 36 and 46. I mean, but yeah, it might be. It might be. And hopefully if he does, he goes somewhere where, you know, he has a chance to win games. I mean, he has a chance to go far, like, you know, playoffs or even better, man, to be honest with you. Just the consistency of, you know, hold the ball, I'm gonna score the ball, do my thing. Clint ends
Gotta
up being
have
a
it.
lob threat,
Gotta
at the
have
end
it.
of it. I feel like they just had tools prior to that. They had tools prior to that. Whatever they got rid of them. I think they had I don't even want to say like necessarily a three-headed monster, a three-headed beast, but like they definitely had something to build on. They got rid of a couple guys, key guys, yeah, I think for him, kind of the same thing we was talking about Dame before, dude. Like, like how long you want to just, be kind of the show,
Yeah.
instead of the team
Yeah.
being the show in terms of wins. It's
Mm-hmm.
another version of another guy who he's gonna get his numbers. Trae Young is good, man. He's gonna get his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna shoot the long shot and stuff like that, man. Like, and that's gonna fill up the seats. But Trae want to win just like anybody else. I feel that, and yeah.
What analogy do I always use about Trae Young?
What you got?
Trae Young is a what until he pulls up next to a what?
Is it a dog until you pull up to the bigger dog? What is it?
He a phantom until he pulls up next to a phantom. I mean, yeah, the man he's a Chrysler 300. Chrysler 300s are nice. Nice. They got nice seats. You comfortable, heated seats in some of them. You lean back. It just feels like a marshmallow is hugging you. It's a nice feeling until you pull up to that phantom.
Man.
Yeah, it ain't the same thing. I'm gonna tell you that. It ain't the same thing. All right. Yeah. Moving on. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic. All right, looking at the Orlando Magic, man. Last year, I was surprised by how quickly things turned around for them. In terms of the way, Paolo made his presence felt. I think he's really coming to his own as not just a good player, but I think he has that. I want to be the star. I want to be the guy that takes over games, on both sides of the ball, because I think he's a good defender as well. Last year, 47 and 35, 24th in points per game, 4th in opponent points, 2nd in defensive rating, 22nd in offensive rating. And when you look at their playoff performance, they couldn't score the basketball. The numbers show it. That's their biggest weakness. You add in KCP to help you space out the floor. You have Banchero. You have Wagner. You have great talent on this team. Corey Joseph's going to be coming off the bench, but you got Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris, still waiting for him to return to form. Cole Anthony. I think Cole Anthony is going to be extremely important to the success, going forward. I don't want to see him leave Orlando. Wendell Carter Jr., great piece. I love him for this team. You lose Fultz potentially, but that's really it. So you're bringing everybody back and you add KCP. When you look at the Orlando Magic, what is missing from this team after knowing everything I just laid out there?
I just say, like, just to figure out who can shoot the ball. That's it. Shoot the three, space the floor so Banchero can do what he does. I got a question for you as well. But that's pretty much my answer to it. My answer to it is better shooting from three. And everything else is kind of like we talked about it last year a little bit in terms of finding identity. Remember, they had all the guards, they had everything going on, trying to figure out who was who. I think they're slowly finding it, if not finding it with Paolo. I want to ask you though, do you feel like Cole Anthony is the 2 to the 1-2 punch of Paolo, or is it somebody else on the team?
I think it's Wagner.
Okay.
I think it's Wagner. This team, all right, if you go back in time, Carmelo Anthony and the Denver Nuggets, when they were at the height of their powers, all right, this is almost the exact same team. Very, very close. You got guys that, can control the game, don't do too much, can just run the offense. You got guys that can do the dirty work, clean up the glass, putbacks. Every now and then, pick and roll, throw the lob. They can do that too. Shooters, you can space the floor. Instant offense off the bench. Like, they had J.R. Smith. We got Cole Anthony on this team. Paolo Banchero, Throw it to him, go to work, get your own bucket. Just like Melo, not at the same clip, but similar styles of play. They're going to do what they can, defensively as a team, because they're top 5 in both categories. So they're going to do whatever they can to get a stop, but they have to have a system in place to get easy buckets to where it's not just Banchero having to bail them out every single time. Now, this is a very important part of our program, all right? This is extremely important. All right, we need to take this very serious. This is not taken lightly, okay?
Never.
This is right here, right in the heart. All right. This is all coming from the heart. We know what their record was last year. We don't want to talk about the playoffs. All right. First of all, there's one thing I do want to say before we kick off this whole discussion. I do want to point out one thing in particular. Okay. There's a lot of conversation going on this summer about who the rightful defensive player of the year was. Opponent points per game, 3rd. Defensive rating, they were 5th. There's one player who guards all 5 positions at a high level. There's one player who guards all 5 positions, and you trust him to get a stop no matter what point in the game it is. You can trust him to guard Kevin Durant. You can trust him to guard JT. You can trust him to guard Steph on the switch. You can trust him to guard James Harden in his prime. You can trust him to guard Kawhi, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Joker, Giannis, Embiid, Paul George, Maxey. You can trust him to guard all of those players no matter what the scenario is because he's that elite. You can trust the fact that when he switches onto a player, their percentage drops extremely low, and he is number 1 in the NBA in that particular category. Bam Adebayo should have been the rightful defensive player of the year at some point in the last 3 years. For sure. Based on numbers, based on metrics, and all those other things. So before we get into all that, I wanted to make that known. Now, looking at Miami, revamped. All right. Back to business. You seen Jimmy, all right? He ain't come with the pressed hair, all right? He ain't coming there with all that. He ain't coming there with the long dreads. He had his hair braided. He looked more professional, all right? How do you feel about the Miami Heat going into this season? You seen how they showed up? Like I said, Jimmy's hair was done. Tyler Hero got a clean bald cut. Like they cleaned it up. Obviously, Pat Riley laid down the law. But they taking a business approach right now. Right. How do you think the Miami Heat season gonna play out?
I'm gonna say if everything works well in terms of less injuries, I say Eastern Conference Finals. Honestly, I mean, me personally, let me say me personally. Let me not even be like cute about it or political about it. I say finals, bro. But that's just me, and that's who I love. You know what I mean? I'll say finals. I'll say the biggest thing that they picked up was Ware. The biggest situation to me. We've been talking about somebody helping out Bam and stuff like that, and you just talked about like how much he has to do. I like Triple J, of course. He's a dog for sure. And just everybody else that's around is starting to, especially with Scary Terry, everybody else is starting to like kind of understand what's needed. I think when Terry came, everything was kind of as great of a player he is and stuff like that. It was still kind of on and off in terms of, along with Jimmy and his production during the season. It was still kind of on and off in terms of who does what where, you know what I mean? With everybody being kind of fairly new. I think Ware allows people, he'll play a little bit more and stuff like that. Obviously they got Kev Love and stuff like that, but I think the rookie adds more depth to the ability for everybody to stay exactly where they are and play at their best ability. I mean, obviously Jimmy, one of the best in the league. Tyler does what he does. Bam, one of the best in the league. Yeah, man, the sky's the limit. I say finals, but only time will tell.
Jimmy has to play like an MVP. Bam has to get Defensive Player of the Year. Tyler Hero has to play at an all-star level. That is the minimum requirements that the Miami Heat players need to have this season. That's the minimum. You look at this roster, they have potentially 12 guys that can make up a 9 to 10 man rotation. Bam Adebayo, Jimmy, Tyler, Haywood Highsmith, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Kevin Love, Josh Richardson, Duncan, Terry, Alec Burks, picked him up. Then you got the rookie Kelly Ware. They have potentially 12 guys that you have to fit into a 10 to 11, 9 to 10 man rotation. And early on in the season, you're probably going to see 11 players playing the game. And then you figure out, all right, who's got it rolling? Jaime Jaquez, he could be a 6th man of the year. Man. He has a very mature game. And there were situations late in games, whether Jimmy was there or not, they trusted him to take shots, to make plays, to create. Isolation situation, I can give him the ball. I can give the ball to Tyler. I can give the ball to Bam now. He's stretching his game. You already know what Terry Rozier does. You already know what Alec Burks can do. But Jimmy Butler is the problem. Jimmy Butler is 1,000% the problem. And I had a conversation with Dez about this very thing. Jimmy sometimes forgets that, yes, this team is full of talent and skill and capability, and anybody can get hot. But nobody on this roster is or will ever be Jimmy Butler. Nobody can flip that switch and go crazy like Jimmy Butler. He's in a conversation every single year. We have the same conversation for the past, 8 to 10 years. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler. Those are the three. Best two-way small forwards in the game. And then LeBron James, obviously he tailed off the last, handful of years. So he's not in that conversation anymore. But for the most of their careers, it was those four, right?
Right.
When you have that type of responsibility and respect, okay, you're going to get paid. That's just a given. They have to pay you that way because they expect you and they have seen you be that guy. But then you get to Miami and you get to the NBA Finals. Okay? And then you get to an Eastern Conference Finals. And then you get back to the NBA Finals. And every single time the problem is there's times where Jimmy just doesn't want the basketball. Where he's okay pushing it off on somebody else, having somebody else go get a bucket, having somebody else run the offense, have somebody else go one-on-one. You're the guy. You have to do that. I seen you, and this is the problem. Players don't pay the price or get criticized for what they can't do or anything like that. It's because we've seen you go Super Saiyan out of nowhere and give 96 points across 2 games to the best defender in the entire NBA for the past 10 years.
Look, going to the point of us talking about him playing at MVP level, we don't, as a whole, need the Miami Heat to just make it. Like, you can only do that so many times that you just make it. Like, I get it the first couple of times y'all got to the finals. I've argued down too many people where it was like, y'all, skinny your teeth and stuff like that, really didn't believe it and everything like that. I think the second go round, people, and the impact that Jimmy had, it was like, okay, look, I don't know if they're necessarily going to make it back to the finals, but he is who he is. I think in this situation, this time around, dude, y'all can't be, hey, we need one game in order to make it and all that type of stuff. Like, you at least have to, I'm not saying you got to be necessarily top 4, but you cannot be where everything is high stakes the last 10 of the games of the year or something like that. And then all of a sudden you want to turn it on, because that's been the problem.
Facts.
Now last year, you weren't able to turn anything on because you were injured. So now, like, you didn't put the team in a position to where it was like, okay, I'm injured, but we still have time. And we've pretty much gotten to the position where I have time to get back and try to do damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing for me in terms of the year. I agree with you in terms of what those three have to do in order to, at the minimum, in order to be great. And as far as the team wise, dude, we cannot be. We need one game, and this last game, and if this team loses and if this team wins and the percentage, dude, I'm not doing that with y'all, bro. We not doing the, we're not doing that this year, brother. We're not doing that this year. I'm telling you, man. I hate stuff like that, bro.
Sick of it.
I hate stuff
Sick
like
of
that.
We through. Yeah, but man,
Right.
but hey, I appreciate you coming through.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you inviting me, man. All day.
We're gonna have more episodes going into the season. We're gonna try to do some live games, live stream. But man, all love, brother. Get this video like, subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments, who do you have winning the Northwest Division, the Southeast Division? Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to the eye test. That's one more for the good guys.
One more.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize